Imagine what it would be like to have a business that can essentially run itself. That's not just pie in the sky. It doesn't have to be a dream. It's something that you can actually create, but you need to be intentional. So what I'm going to do in this video is break down for you the steps that you can take to create a consulting business that essentially runs itself. Now, that might seem too good to be true, especially if you're feeling at times overwhelmed, stressed, if you're feeling like you just don't have enough time to get things done, if you're feeling like, the business is just fully reliant on you, then this video is for you. So let's start off and talk about why. What is the value for you as a consulting business owner to actually create and structure and take the steps to have a consulting business that can run itself? Well, the first thing, and I think the most important, is that it creates more freedom for you. We do a lot of studies at consultingsuccess.com and surveys where we ask thousands of consultants all kinds of questions about how they built their business, their marketing, business development, their lifestyle, their finances. You can check all that out at consultingsuccess.com. But inside of those studies, what we consistently see when we ask questions around why did you become a consultant? What was the driving factor for you? One of the biggest things that stands out is the consistency of the answer that I wanted more freedom and flexibility. You can probably resonate with that. Well, if you are operating as an employee inside of your business, then you don't really have that much freedom, right? You can often feel like you're just working as much as before, if not more than before, and not always doing everything that you enjoy, especially if you haven't gotten good systems in place, if you haven't delegated. And so you can find yourself kind of waking up one day where you're just working a lot more than you used to. You're not necessarily making that much more than you used to. And the whole idea of creating more freedom and flexibility that was desirable is not, in fact, what you're seeing. And so by structuring the business and taking the steps that I'm going to talk about here in a moment, you can actually create significantly more freedom, more flexibility. You can actually feel like you are running the business, not just inside operating and doing the day-to-day. So that's number one. Number two is that it shifts reliance away from you. Imagine the situation where maybe one of your kids or a spouse or a parent or just a loved one gets sick, or maybe you get sick. Well, if everything relies on you, then your business essentially ceases to exist. And I've often kind of delivered the tough love, as we call it internally, to clients when I have very direct conversations. There's been many situations where I'll say to somebody, listen, I know you've been working really hard at this, but right now you do not have a business. You have a job. You've created a job for yourself because everything relies on you. And if that resonates with you, if you feel like, yeah, that's actually kind of what I feel, if I'm honest with myself, that's what I'm seeing right now. If the business is fully reliant on you, it's not really a business, because if you take yourself out of it, it can't operate. And so whether it's from the perspective of you want more freedom, more flexibility, whether it's that you want to make the business stronger so it doesn't rely on you, meaning that you can take a holiday, meaning that it can still operate even if you're sick. The business can function without you being there. There's many reasons why that's valuable. But the other one is that whether or not you choose to sell the business, by creating a business that is less reliant on you and can run itself to a degree or even completely, it increases the value of the business. And so again, even if you're thinking right now, I have no desire to sell this business anytime, I want to just keep running it, for many, many years, that's fantastic. But by building a business that can be sold, and by building a business that doesn't rely on you all the time, you're making the business not only more valuable, you're also going to get the other benefits of more freedom and flexibility, less reliance. And so you're strengthening the business, right? Again, think about it this way. If the business relies 100% on you, you have a very weak business. You have a business that can be shook up or shaken up very quickly. And that's not a strong business to have. That's not a strong position to be in. So as a business owner, you really want to work towards making sure that your business is a business and that it doesn't fully rely on you. Now, how do you do that? Okay, so let's go through several different ways that you can achieve this. The first is that focus is key. There's several ways that you can apply focus, and I'll talk about a few of them here today, but one of them is by client type. The more moving parts that you have inside of the business, right, the harder it is for you to focus. The harder it is, or the less focus that you have, the more complexity the business has. That becomes much more challenging for you to train people and for your team members, right? Again, whether they're full-time, part-time, contract, it's harder for anyone to manage complexity. So if you think about this, the idea of creating less reliance on you and having a business that can run itself, the less complexity in that business, the easier it is to train people and have people run that business. If you have a lot of complexity inside of your business, if you have a lot of customization in terms of your services, the only way way that you can really deliver on that level of complexity and customization without your day-to-day involvement is to hire very senior people. Now, very senior people typically cost a lot of money. And so if you want to be able to scale your business, and I'm not saying don't hire senior people and experienced people, there's a lot of value in doing that. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. The more that you can simplify your services, the more clear that you can get on who is your actual ideal client, the more productization that you can bring into your business, the less complexity, the fewer moving parts, and therefore it's easier to operate it. If you think about your business as a machine, right, as an engine, the fewer moving parts that are in that engine, the easier it is to operate, the easier it is to course correct or to fix, maintain. And the opposite is also true. The more moving parts you have, right, the more things that can potentially break, the more challenging it is to fix, just the harder it is and more likely it is that there's something will go wrong. And if you want to create a very sustainable, almost bulletproof business, then the fewer moving parts, the better. How do you arrive at that? Well, one of the things that you can do is just to analyze your business, look at your revenue, look at your invoices, look at your client list, look at the types of projects, look at the profitability. These are the kinds of things that we do with our clients inside of our Clarity Coaching program. So if you're a business owner that would like to build a bulletproof business and you want help to really identify how do you create more value inside your business, how do you shift reliance away from you as being almost an employee in your business to really position yourself as a strategic consulting business owner, then click on the link below this video or just head over to consultingsuccess.com and click on the coaching button. You can learn a lot more about the Clarity Coaching program. But let's get into the second area. So the first, we talked about the power of focus. And the next thing you want to make sure that you work through, and this is incredibly important to create a business that can run itself, is to document everything. The more documentation, and when I say documentation, I'm not just referring to scattered papers everywhere, but the more that you've documented how your business runs from beginning to end, the easier it will be for you to not have to be present and the business can be run by somebody else. Think about this in terms of the journey that your clients go through, right? You want to document how do you actually acquire clients? What do you do? What works? What is effective for you to bring clients in, right? From a lead generation, business development perspective, you want to document that. You want to document your sales process. Very common for founders to be the ones doing all the sales. Well, the only way that you can shift out of that is by really documenting how do you do sales, right? Every step of the way. What does the conversation look like? What does the follow-up look like? What does the proposal process look like? And then on the delivery side, again, you can't step out of delivery effectively if you haven't documented what delivery looks like. So how do you onboard clients? How do you deliver on client projects? How do you offboard clients? How do you deal with challenging situations? What does the actual process look like? What is the actual delivery from, are you delivering workshops? Are there interviews? Are you going on the client site? Do you have to set up regular meetings? Every piece needs to be documented, because if it's not documented, number one, you can't train somebody else to take that over from you. But number two, there's very likely a lot of inefficiency and waste inside of your process currently. And I'm not pointing fingers to you. I'm saying this is general for everybody. There's always waste. And the only way to identify the waste that exists and figure out what to eliminate and how to strengthen and make that process more efficient and more effective is to begin by documenting. So you may have heard about SOPs, standard operating procedures. This is essentially the documentation. Think about it almost as a checklist guide of how you do everything inside of the business. So this is marketing, this is delivery, this is operations, this is finance, even HR, human resources. Every aspect of your business should be documented. The more documentation that you have, the easier it will be for you to train people to take over each of those areas. And if you are interested in selling your business at some point, the more SOPs and documentation and systems that you have, the more valuable it will be to an acquirer, because when they look at that, they go, how reliant is this business on this one person or on these one or two people? And if we replace those people or that person isn't there, do we have the documentation? Do we have the systems in place that we know that we can follow that will get the intended result or the desired result? Next is building your leadership team. So if you truly want to have a business that can run without you, or at least be significantly less reliant on you, then you need good people. And you've likely heard this, the distinction between A players, B players, C players. You want a business that has a lot of A players. And it doesn't mean that you may not have B players. You certainly do not want C players. C players are the ones that drain energy. They don't really get much done. They cause a lot more problems. You have to spend a lot of time with them. Those are the people that you do not want on your bench and as part of your team. Every company will likely have B players at some point, and you want to work with those B players to get them to A players. But that's not what this video is about. What I want to talk about here is building a leadership team team or building a team that can really take a lot of what you're doing off of your plate so that, again, the business can operate without you. And so the way that you're going to want to think through this is looking at, first of all, where do you create the most value? What areas inside the business are you right now maybe spending time that aren't the highest value but are necessary? And so that might be certain parts of delivery. That might be certain parts of project management. That might be finance, like invoicing and bookkeeping and things of that nature. So you want to really do inventory and analysis of where you spend your time, where do you create the most value. You want to look at which areas right now should you not be spending time with that you can delegate to somebody else and bring in a team member, train them up, and hopefully you have a really good hiring process. We can do a whole other video on that. We work with our clients a lot on this kind of stuff inside of our Clarity Coaching program. So reach out if you want to chat about that. You want to start to fill the gaps that you have in your business so that you can remove yourself. So you might begin and think about, right now I'm spending all my time in delivery. I want to get out of delivery. Well, how do you do that? Again, you need documentation. You need to have a system in place so that you've really explained or described the journey of what needs to happen from A to Z or Z, right, to deliver successfully for a client project. Once you have that, then you can bring somebody on and train them and they can take over. Then you might say, okay, I now have somebody in delivery and they're doing a great job. Maybe I need another person in delivery, or maybe I need somebody to help me on sales, or maybe I need somebody to help me to bring in more leads on the marketing side, right? Or maybe I need somebody to just manage the projects more effectively. Figuring out right now where you have a weakness or where you're spending time that you shouldn't be and what sucks your energy away but would give energy to somebody else. That's how you start to think about building a leadership team and bringing on people that have ideally more experience than you have in certain areas. And so therefore they can come in and they can even show you and share with you things that they've done in other roles that could be a best practice to bring into your business. Now, the other thing that I should mention here, this is incredibly important if you want to create a business that can run itself, is that you, and this is really your role as the leader, as the owner, is to create a very clear vision for success or a vision of success. What does that vision look like? Here, this is about painting that long-term picture of what does the business look like in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years from now. And it doesn't have to be granular, business plan level detail where you have all the different tables and fancy stuff. No, but you should have a statement. Cameron Herold in his book, Vivid Vision, does a great job of describing what that vision can look like. And you want to have that vision because you as the leader, if you're not talking about the vision, if you're not painting the picture of what that looks like, it's really hard to get people kind of rallied around you or who are excited to rally around you and be part of that. So you want to get your leadership team, you want to get your whole team bought into that vision of success of what the future looks like and how amazing it's going to be, because that will help everybody to see what you're all working towards and get them excited about it. Now, the final thing I'll mention, and this is very important when it comes to having a business that can run itself, is that you need to have data. And when I say data, there's a simple way of thinking about this is a scorecard. You want to make sure that you've identified all of the key metrics, the KPIs, the key performance indicators inside of your business that really tell you whether or not the business is doing the things that it needs to be doing. Is it reaching the goals, the targets that have been set? And so a typical consulting business, you're going to have KPIs around retention. You're going to have KPIs around sales and business development, percentage and number of proposals sent, proposals won. You're going to have metrics around maybe your operations or client reviews and case studies, profitability. There's all different types of metrics. That could be another whole video. If you're interested, just put a note in the comments below and I'm happy to talk about that in another video. But for now, what I want to mention is that having a scorecard is incredibly important and critical for you if you want to build a business that's less reliant on you, because if you need to pay attention to every little aspect of the business, it's going to require you to have a lot of conversation. It's going to waste a lot of time because you're going to be going a lot deeper into every area of the business than you actually should be, and you shouldn't be doing that, which is why you want to set up clear targets and metrics. Think about this for a moment. If the goal is to achieve, and if you know that you have a certain number of conversations, or if you generate a certain number of leads, or if you put out a certain number of proposals every week and every month, that will allow you to reach your targets, what your target is for that month, for that quarter, for that year. You only need to focus on that one number. You know whether you're hitting that target or you're not. If you're not hitting that target, right, then obviously the leadership team or yourself would be having conversations with everybody on your team to figure out what needs to be adjusted to achieve that result. But if you're hitting that target, then you know you're on track and you don't need to spend more time on it. Why is this so important? Because if you don't have clarity on these targets, if you don't have a way to track and measure and know that you're going in the right direction, you might wake up and step away from the business realizing that, wow, I've stepped away, but the business is actually now suffering. It's not performing as well as I thought it would and was hoping. You might be a lot later to find that out than you should be. So having a real good pulse on what's happening inside of the business and having these metrics and kind of KPIs in place will really help you to stay in touch to again have a really good pulse on what's happening on the business on a weekly basis, monthly basis, quarterly basis, to ensure that again what you and your team are doing is getting you in the right direction, will align with what your actual quarterly and annual goals are. I hope you found this video helpful. If you'd like more videos like this, or you have a topic that you'd like to suggest for a future video, go ahead and just type it in the comments below. And if you're a consulting business owner that would like help to grow and scale your consulting business, to look at how to create a more valuable business, how to put better systems in place, how to shift from being an employee to actually being a strategic consulting business owner with growth ahead of you, then click on the link below this video here, or reach out by going to consultingsuccess.com. You can click on the coaching button and learn more about our Clarity Coaching Program. Go ahead and set up a call, and we'll be happy to chat with you about your specific situation and what steps you can take, look at a plan together of what that looks like to get your business to that next level of success.